A retiree can follow the monthly budget perfectly and still be short by $20,000 or $30,000 before the year is over. The problem is not always overspending, it is that the expensive parts of retirement rarely arrive as neat monthly bills. The roof fails. The insurance renewal jumps. A tooth breaks. The car needs replacing. Suddenly, the comfortable retirement budget was missing an entire second budget. There are 5 costs people routinely underestimate. The house that still sends bills, the things inside it that wear out, the healthcare Medicare does not fully cover, the next vehicle, and the cost of an open calendar. The most dangerous part comes later, because these expenses do not politely take turns. Start with the house that is supposedly paid off. Reaching retirement without a mortgage can dramatically lower monthly spending. It does not reduce housing to zero. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, utilities, association fees, and ordinary upkeep continue for as long as the house does. These costs are easy to underestimate because they often arrive through escrow while a mortgage is active. Once the loan ends, the homeowner may receive the tax and insurance bills directly. The mortgage disappeared, but the property charges were only unbundled. A retirement budget should therefore carry a monthly housing reserve even when the principal balance is zero. Take the annual property tax, insurance, association fees, and predictable services, divide them by 12, and treat that amount like a permanent housing payment. The house is paid off. The house is not free. The second expense is what I call the replacement year. Most budgets include a few $100s for repairs. Then retirement delivers a roof, heating system, water heater, refrigerator, and driveway on their own schedules. These are not monthly expenses. They are large pieces of the house reaching the end of their useful lives. A homeowner may spend almost nothing for 3 years and then face 2 major replacements in 6 months. Averaging that cost over time is financially correct, but only if the money was actually being set aside during the quiet years. Walk through the home and write down the age of the expensive systems. Roof, heating and cooling, water heater, major appliances, windows, plumbing, septic system if there is one. Do not predict the exact failure date. Give each item a replacement window and a rough current cost. Then create a home replacement reserve separate from the emergency fund. A known aging roof is not an emergency. It is a bill that has not chosen its date yet. The third expense comes from the body. Many people hear the word Medicare and mentally close the healthcare category. But original Medicare does not cover everything. Long-term care is generally not covered. Most routine dental care is not covered. Routine eye exams for glasses are not covered. And hearing aids are another common gap, unless other coverage applies. Even covered care can involve premiums, deductibles, co-insurance, prescriptions, travel, and services outside a particular plan's network. A healthy first year of retirement can make the medical budget look generous. One dental procedure or hearing problem can reveal that it was not. The practical move is to separate healthcare into 2 buckets. The first pays recurring premiums and prescriptions. The second pays for irregular gaps. Dental work, hearing, vision, equipment, travel for care, and services the chosen coverage does not absorb. Long-term care deserves its own conversation because the numbers can be far larger than an ordinary medical reserve. The important point here is simple. Medicare eligibility does not place a ceiling over every future health expense. The fourth expense has four wheels. Transportation often falls after retirement because commuting ends. That does not mean the car becomes cheap. Insurance, registration, maintenance, tires, repairs, and eventual replacement continue. A household that drives less may keep a vehicle longer, which can make the replacement feel even more surprising when it finally arrives. The retirement plan should know whether it expects one car, two cars, or no car later. It should also know how a new vehicle would be purchased: cash reserve, smaller monthly payment, sale of investments, public transportation and ride services. A car is not merely a purchase. It protects access to groceries, doctors, family, and social life. Cutting transportation too aggressively can save money while making retirement smaller and more isolated. Set aside a monthly replacement amount even when the current vehicle is paid off. The absence of a car payment is the best time to prepare for the next car, not permission to pretend there will never be one. Now the fifth expense, the open calendar. Working life limits spending in ways people rarely notice. There are only so many lunches out, weekday trips, home projects, golf rounds, shopping afternoons, and visits to grandchildren that fit around a full-time job. Retirement creates time. Time creates choices, and many choices cost money. This does not mean retirement should be spent sitting at home to protect the portfolio. The point of saving was to buy a life, but the lifestyle budget should describe the life you actually intend to live, not a quieter version of your working week with every enjoyable activity removed. Test an ordinary retirement month. Include hobbies, meals out, travel savings, gifts, club fees, home projects, and the small purchases that come with being out in the world. Then ask which expenses are essential to the retirement you want and which ones can flex after a bad year. A sustainable plan does not ban enjoyment, it gives enjoyment a number. This category also includes generosity. More time with children and grandchildren often means more travel, meals, gifts, childcare help, and quiet financial support. These choices may be deeply worthwhile. They still need a boundary, because an open-ended promise to help family can become one of the least flexible expenses in the household. Give travel, hobbies, gifts, and family help their own annual amounts. That protects the portfolio, but it also protects relationships by replacing vague expectations with a plan. Now we reach the part most monthly budgets miss. The largest danger is not necessarily any one of these 5 expenses, it is collision. Imagine the property tax increase arrives in January, the roof begins leaking in March, dental work appears in June, the car fails in September. Each bill may be manageable on its own. Together, they can force a large portfolio withdrawal during a bad market or push a retiree toward expensive debt. Average annual spending hides this problem. A household may genuinely spend an average of $60,000 a year over a decade, while still experiencing one $85,000 year that puts the whole plan under pressure. That is why a retirement plan needs 2 budgets. The first is the operating budget: monthly food, utilities, insurance, entertainment, and ordinary spending. The second is the replacement budget: money reserved for property charges, major home systems, healthcare gaps, vehicles, and other expenses that arrive irregularly but predictably over a long retirement. To build it, estimate a 10-year total rather than pretending every item arrives annually. If the household expects 1 vehicle, 1 major home system, several dental expenses, and rising property charges during that period, divide the total into a monthly reserve. The estimate will not be perfect. It will be far more useful than zero. Review that reserve once a year. Replace old estimates with current quotes. Remove expenses that have already been paid and add new ones as the house, car, and health situation change. This is the midpoint relevance test. If you are already retired and the monthly budget feels comfortable, do not assume the work is finished. Look at the next 5 years, not only the next 5 weeks. How old is the roof? When will the car probably need replacing? Which dental or hearing expenses have been postponed? Which insurance renewals are rising? What travel or family commitments are already taking shape? If you are still working, the final earning years are an ideal time to fund these reserves. A roof paid from the last years of salary does not need to be paid from the first years of portfolio withdrawals. The reserves do not all need separate bank accounts. They do need separate jobs on paper. Otherwise, the same $20,000 is counted as emergency money, travel money, car money, and home repair money 4 different times. $1 cannot protect 4 promises at once. Here is the audit. For the house, total the annual taxes, insurance, association fees, and regular upkeep that remain after the mortgage. For replacements, list the expensive systems and appliances likely to age out during the first 10 years of retirement. For healthcare, separate recurring coverage costs from dental, hearing, vision, and long-term care exposure. For transportation, decide how the next vehicle or mobility plan will be funded before the current car becomes unreliable. For the calendar, price the hobbies, travel, gifts, and ordinary outings that make retirement worth reaching. Then add 1 collision test. Choose the largest plausible home bill, health bill, and vehicle bill. Assume 2 happen in the same year. Can the plan absorb them without credit card debt, panic selling, or immediately returning to work? If the answer is no, the retirement date may not be the only thing that needs changing. The reserve structure does. This does not mean hoarding enough cash for every disaster imaginable. It means admitting that a 30-year retirement will contain more than 300 smooth monthly budgets. The quiet years should help pay for the expensive ones. That is the deeper rule behind all 5 categories. Retirement spending is not a straight line. It is a series of calm stretches interrupted by expensive seasons. The plan becomes stronger when it expects the shape of that spending instead of relying on one average number. In the comments, which costs surprised you most after retirement? Or which one are you most concerned about before you get there? Once you identify these irregular expenses, the next question becomes unavoidable. How much money should actually sit in cash instead of remaining invested? Next, we are looking at how large a retirement cash reserve should be, what it is supposed to protect, and when too much cash quietly creates a different problem. Retirement is not ruined by every large bill. It is protected by expecting that large bills will come.